Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the Flamin' Hot Grilled Cheese Burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Hey Bronco Nation, this is Boise State football wide receiver Ben Ford. I've had to face some setbacks on the field this past season, but toughness isn't about staying down. It's about getting back up. I am proud to represent Lithia Ford of Boise, where you can find the largest selection of Ford trucks that are built tough and, like me, handle the hits and keep pushing forward. Come check out the incredible inventory and competitive pricing at Lithia Ford of Boise. And when you buy here, you're not just getting a truck, you're supporting Boise State athletics and Lithia Ford NIL partnerships. Come see us at Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
As sports fans, we may cheer for different teams, but there's one thing that we can all agree on. We want the game to be big. And with 3 levels, 30 cabanas, a 143-foot screen, 6 clean pools, and endless cold drinks, it doesn't get any bigger or any better than Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. All sports, all seasons. It's more than a pool deck. Stadium Swim. It's the only thing like it in the world.
The final buzzer has sounded on another night of basketball out west. And it's time to break down the action with Tom Moser on Another Night Out West, presented by Circus Sports. Heading to Las Vegas for our guys' weekend or to watch the Pac-12 or Mountain West basketball tournaments? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. While you're there, check out the world's largest sports book and make sure to eat at Barry's Prime Steakhouse. Book your reservations today at circalasvegas.com. Another Night Out West features interviews, analysis, opinions, and more from the Pac-12, the Mountain West, the WCC, and beyond. If it's happening out west, we're talking about it on Another Night Out West. Subscribe on YouTube and don't miss a show at youtube.com/@Another Night Out West. Did your team just get a big win? How about a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN.
Like you said, he's in big moments, ton of experience.
Amazing arena. We have the altitude. Like you said, we have.
Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Coach Tom Moser for Another Night Out West on Bronco Nation News.
And we are back. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Another Night Out West. We are live Sunday, August the 16th, middle of the month, after a week away. Always that was in the plan. My 1 week of vacation for the year, did a little beach going. Beaches are big things here on the East Coast. I'm within, 2 hours of all the beaches on the coast, from Jersey all the way down through, well, really North Carolina, which is too far to drive, but plenty of good stuff. And got some beach time, some ocean, little boardwalk stuff for the kiddo. So she enjoys all that. And, just good to get away. So missed the show last week. But again, when we started mapping out the schedule for the summer here, with the amount of coaches that we had lined up, it just kind of pieced together. And so we knew this was how it was going to go. BJ again, not along. I'm by myself. I think I skipped that part. So I'm here running the show again. Tom Moser, your host. So, look, BJ's got stuff going on now between baseball with the little ones. He's got football coming up. So it was great to have him along for those few episodes when we initiated the coaching series. Since we did those interviews together, he wanted to be here while we went through them on the show. Couldn't make it a couple weeks ago. Couldn't make it tonight either. which not a big deal. I think it went all right last time. Again, as I said, it's not as easy if you're not familiar and comfortable doing it, pulling the strings with the production stuff. So I think it went off okay last week. I didn't really hear a lot of stuff to the contrary. So I'll see if I can pull that off again here tonight. I think I got it all set up and ready to go. So we'll see. As I've tweeted out earlier, Tim Miles from San Jose State, Ben Jacobson, new boss at Utah State. We're going to hear what those guys had to say. Now, obviously, these are maybe, a couple weeks old. And so in the interim, plenty of news. I don't know that a lot of stuff necessarily affecting those two teams specifically. Utah State's schedule is going to be a little bit more finalized since the interview. So you might hear some things that you might wonder, that's why. Now, with the coaching interviews done after tonight, next week, I'm going to start focusing in on non-conference, or not just non-conference, scheduling, right? We've gotten several teams that have come through with their final schedule. I think Utah State out of the Pac-12, Grand Canyon, UNLV, and Nevada, I believe, out of the Mountain West. Somebody let me know if I'm missing anything. I know New Mexico released their Mountain West schedule, but that doesn't mean anything to me, the conference schedules, because everybody's playing everybody in both schedules. I know certain fans want to lock in dates for when the games are and maybe to travel, since you guys have a shorter distance and you can plan some travels and some games. That's great to see if they're on Saturdays or they're on Fridays, or who, how your trips go, all that stuff. I don't really care about any of that stuff because everybody's playing everybody home and away. So that doesn't really matter to me right now. It'll matter once we get into like January and February, and then we can see how the games are lining up. But for now, it's really just looking at kind of the complete non-conference schedule. And so with the 4 that are out right now, I would anticipate between now and next Sunday, another 1 or 2, maybe even more, but maybe another couple being released. And so I'm not going to get through all them at one shot, and probably get some commentary to go along with it, which always stretches the episodes out. When we're doing the interviews here, there's not really a lot of time to build in the comments because we're just playing the interview, right? We won't have that. And so, I have no idea an exact number. Maybe I do like 3 teams next week. Maybe I can do all 4. I don't know. If you figure you talk for 10 or 15 minutes on each one, that kind of get you to 3 or 4 teams if you're going for an hour or so. There are also a couple other topics going on. The continued saga with eligibility, 5th-year guys, lawsuits, all that nonsense. Again, I've been gone for 2 weeks, so there's been quite a bit of stuff where that's concerned. So I will save that for next week. We have 2 solid, very solid 20-plus 22-minute interviews with very good head coaches that I want to get to and talk about. So I'm not going to belabor any of those other points because I can get to them next week or the week after, right? As we're in, again, the dog days here. We did have, while I was gone, Grand Canyon played a couple of games up in Canada. I didn't see them. I just kind of looked through some highlights and stats and comments, things like that. Other programs have got some practice stuff going on, some workouts, and you're seeing some things posted on the socials. But there's not a ton to report right now. And practice probably officially, I say officially because they've all been doing stuff, but practice is going to start for these guys around the middle of September, give or take a day there for all of these teams. I think it's allowed 6 weeks before you start game action. And so that pretty much, if you backtrack, it takes you to the middle of September, give or take a day or 2. So until we get to that point, I'm not sure that we'll have any coaches or players yet. Again, we hit many coaches. I have had some comments about some that we did not get. Again, trust me, BJ is out there working to get these guys, okay? He's not picking and choosing who we want to get, right? I mean, you saw us do Air Force. No offense to Air Force. They were one of the worst teams in the country last year, right? So, we got Air Force on here, right? We got some of the top dogs too. If you did not see your team, I'm not going to call any names out. There's a reason for that. All right. It's not because we don't like your team or we didn't try to get your team. There are reasons for it. Let's just say, and I'll leave it at that. And you guys that are fans of some of those teams can probably figure out what those reasons are. If you can't, ask around or ask me in a on a post somewhere on Twitter, and I can kind of code it. I don't want to really call anybody out. But this is, we got responses from 10 schools that were happy to do it. Maybe we'll get a few more in the fall. Again, maybe some players once practice starts and things like that. But with no real concrete stuff to talk about, I'm not going to go over all of that stuff now when we have things to talk about in this episode for these two programs. Okay, now that I've been on here for 10 minutes already babbling, let me hit the sponsors up. You see in the videos there, we got our Sun Cruiser. And, it's funny, since, again, I've been gone for 2 weeks, I think I got at least 2 texts from buddies with at a golf tournament, somebody sporting the Sun Cruiser that somebody else had. He said, hey, isn't this one of your sponsors? Is it still one of your sponsors? I said, yep. He said, I'm golfing. Somebody's got the Sun Cruiser. I said, word. Somebody else was traveling with one of his children for a tournament somewhere. Shows me the cooler down there in the refrigerator. Got the Sun Cruiser. When I was on the beach the other day and I tried to get a picture of it and I couldn't, in the ocean, there goes a big liner, a cruiser, right? And they have rolling advertisements every so often. I don't know how many they had, Snickers and this and that, DraftKings and all these other companies. And they're on the thing with Sun Cruiser. I found it interesting just because there's so many competitors for Sun Cruiser, especially on the East Coast. There's plenty when you go and check it out. So I thought that was pretty cool. So keep supporting Sun Cruiser. Fantastic product. And of course, Circa too. BJ talked about you guys, if you're familiar with the Circa Survivor, huge contest, NFL starting up probably in a few weeks. I know they got the preseason underway. So you're headed out to Vegas now or very soon. Great time to go in September with football starting. You still got baseball going on. I guess you'll have some, hockey in about a month or so. There's always other random things going on before basketball starts. So if you're headed out to Vegas, hit up the good folks at Circa. You won't be disappointed, inside or outside. Okay, and then at the bottom, you see it kind of scrolling across right now, YouTube, www.youtube.com/@anothernightoutwest. We've been picking up some subscriptions, which is fantastic. I probably don't tout that enough. As I've said, I'm not a massive self-promoter, but it does help, and we pick up a few handfuls every episode. So if you're not already subscribed, just click on the subscribe button on YouTube, right? It's free. Doesn't hurt you to do it. Just click it. You'll get a notification when the episode's coming on. If you kind of forgot about it or you're busy, whatever it might be, just click on it. It helps. BJ wants to get up to 1,000. Let's chip away 100 at a time. We're getting close to 700. And so let's keep that number up there. If we can get a few during this episode or whenever you watch it, that'll be great. I know with it being summertime, not everybody's watching live. People are watching during the week or even later, which is great. Fantastic. No problem with that at all. It's, again, not like, game action on a Wednesday night and you need to watch and hear what's going on because there's new stuff coming up in a couple days. So, all right, all that stuff out of the way. We're going to we'll do San Jose State first and the Tim Miles conversation. Look, Miles, well-respected across the country, okay? He's done a good job at a program that we all know has beyond a low amount of resources. Now, before we caught up with Tim, a few weeks before that, they got a massive donation. We talk about that in the interview. That will help. One of the things, too, and I point this out so often. I kind of joke about it in when we talk to coach too, is how they just cannot seem to stay healthy, right? And when you're already playing shorthanded, right, you need all hands on deck. And they've been far from all hands on deck. They've been like, two hands behind your back on deck the last couple years with injuries. And if they can avoid that, with Tim Miles running the show, they have some talented pieces in place. Who knows what he could accomplish, right? A few years ago, when the league was a good league, he finished in the top 5 and got a bye in the first round of the conference tournament, right? Now, they weren't a serious NCAA tournament threat because they never really scheduled tough in the non-con, but they made the NIT. They had the player of the year in the conference. Miles wins coach of the year. So, that might be in the cards this year. New conference. We know the deal. Few of the top dogs have left. And that's going to, we know the teams that think they're going to slide up into those top few slots, right? But as we should also know from following not just the Mountain West, but any league, it rarely goes according to form, okay? And so would it shock me if Miles got his Spartans into the top half of the conference? Absolutely not. I mean, now, if he continues to suffer the injuries that he has for the last handful of years, the last 2 years basically, well, then no. But if he can keep his guys healthy, maybe he has to keep them in bubble wrap, I don't know, keep his guys healthy, I trust Miles, as much as almost any coach in the conference, right? He's proven that. And so, let's see what happens, right? So BJ and I, 20-minute conversation. We are going to get to Tim Miles after this 30-second ad.
Get ready for the time of your life at Circa Resort and Casino, Las Vegas's newest destination for fun.
All right, we're back here.
The world's biggest poolside tailgate party with 3 levels of action, 6 pools, and a 143-foot screen. The fun is always on deck with all the games all year long. Stadium Swim, located in downtown Las Vegas on Fremont Street. Book the time of your life today at circalasvegas.com.
Here on Another Night Out West, our coaches series continues, this time joined by the 6th-year head man at San Jose State, Coach Tim Miles. Coach, thanks for joining us. How are we doing?
Doing well today. How's our former counterparts, the Boise Broncos, doing?
It's going to be weird, man. I'm going to miss those trips to the great venue there in I don't even know what the credit union, what it's called nowadays, but love coming there to San Jose, and going to miss we had the fan cake there for years, and always good memories and thoughts coming down there to San Jose. So I'm going to miss that for sure. I'm sure Leon's just dying to do a home and home with you. Come on.
Yeah, when you win all the time, I'd love coming down too. What the hell?
After the way last year went, I'm sure he wants no part of your team for a while. So.
That's true. The way the season ended. Coach, let's talk big picture here as we're middle of the summer. You just mentioned off camera, you guys are doing a foreign trip. A lot of good benefits to that. Tell us where your program stands, just big picture right now. We'll dig into some of the individuals in a little bit, but how do you feel about your guys right now as we stand here in the middle of the summer?
Yeah, first and foremost, we were able to raise some money to help the program, and we had a group of donors that did just about $4 million into the program to infuse some capital, and that's going to help us in every way. It's not just NIL, though. Certainly, that's a piece of it, but it's things that how we travel, how we feed our kids, facility stuff, game management, game event, fan experience type of things. So we're really excited about that. And usually when you add resources, you add value, and I expect that to happen for us this year.
Well, obviously, you got a couple guys coming back. One that obviously played, 10 starts for you last season in Pasha. I know it's kind of a new roster every year, but at least have a couple guys familiar with the program that are back. What does that do as you're trying to build out a roster?
Yeah, 15 guys, 3 guys that are with us and have been with us before, 12 new guys. So I haven't even met a couple of them yet. They're still on their way here from foreign countries. But Pasha Gadarzi's, just a deadly shooter. I think if you look at his ability to catch and shoot and make 3-pointers, he's as good as there is in our Mountain West Conference. And that's really important. And Javon Hanna, who only played 2 games last year, is another guy that, Javon last year was on campus for a month and unanimously voted captain by his teammates. So I think that tells you, his leadership, how he resonates as a teammate. He's a guy that was 6th man of the year in the MAC with Western Michigan 2 years ago. And so we expect he'll help us. And then more importantly, listen to this, guys. Rob Biola is back, right? Rob was with us and went to Minnesota. And then we fought off the likes of some of the old Mountain West schools, and we were able to get Rob to come back. But Rob, I think I did the math. Now I'm going to make up some numbers, but I'm going to get close. And I believe that Rob's record as a guy that played in games, the games he played in, he was like 37-24 or something like that. And if you look back to in any time in the Mountain West, you won't find another San Jose player that had that kind of record, right? And so my point is this: he's outshone everybody that's wore a Spartan uniform. Games he plays in, we've done much better than the historical average. So we are super excited to have Rob back and for his last year. And I think he'll be an important guy for us.
Is that, does he need a waiver or anything, or is he already approved, good to go?
Well, they all need the waiver, right, at his age. But yeah, everything has been done and he's in good shape.
Let's talk about although Viola's a newcomer, technically he's kind of not. I guess that comes with an asterisk. But let's talk about some of these other newcomers that I'm sure you're excited about. One is a former McDonald's All-American, Mookie Cook, who started at Oregon, was pretty successful last year at San Francisco. What are you expecting from Mookie? How's he look out there for you guys so far?
Well, he's a physical kid. He's a great kid. He's really smart. I really enjoy having him. And we talked to the San Francisco coaches, the Oregon coaches, his programs before, and everybody likes Mookie. And certainly, as you can say, former McDonald's All-American, right? Pretty cool stuff for San Jose State to be recruiting those kind of guys. He's a guy that I think can play a variety of positions in a variety of places. Big-bodied perimeter guy that you can run. You can run stuff for him in the post. You can run stuff for him at the point. And so we're going to use him in all those ways. And he's a guy that's really exciting for me.
So the last few years, you've seemingly had 7-foot guys that haven't always been able to stay on the floor, let's just say. Looking at your roster right now, I know there's a couple that you said haven't gotten there yet, so maybe they fit that bill. But I'm looking at your roster. You got a lot of 6'8", 6'9" guys. I'm sure you're excited about one of them, and I'm pretty good with pronunciations. I'm going to create my own acronym for the guy from Columbia, Zine Adine Bedri. I'm going to call him Zeb, Z-E-B. He was injured last year over at Columbia, but he seems to be a pretty intriguing guy. What can you tell us about the 6'9" transfer from the Ivy?
Yeah, he is a fascinating. First of all, he's just a delightful kid to be around. His positive attitude, he's funny, he's fun to be around. I like that. That energy he's got makes him a great teammate, makes him a great guy to coach. Very productive player in the Ivy League. Ivy League kids have really done well as they've moved on. Almost every kid contributes, and a lot of them jump higher, even into the Big Ten level and stuff like that. He's a guy that, can play multiple positions for us at forward and center. He runs really well. And I really like his basketball intelligence is really good. It's one thing to be a brainiac and graduate from an Ivy League thing. He also knows basketball really well. And I think that's important. For instance, I know basketball really well, but I couldn't get into one Ivy League school no matter what. So it's nice to have a guy like that really knows the game, and Biola is smart like that too. So we really like those two big guys. I was worried what you guys are saying. I was a little bit worried about, which is where are we going to rim protect? How are we going to rim protect? And it's not going to be from blocking shots. It's not like we have a couple 7-foot kids that are high flyers and going to come clean up for us. So we're going to have to do it with position defense and smart players, and that's what we expect to do.
Tim Miles, our guest, head coach at San Jose State. Another night out west. We're talking Mountain West basketball. Coach Miles, you're 6. Yeah, that is crazy to believe already. But you've touched on a couple guys. Who are a couple other guys? You got the 6th man of the year in the Sun Belt. You got some other guys here. Tulsa transfer. I mean, who are, if you mentioned you're getting ready to go play a game or whatever down there and, on this trip or whatever, who are some other guys, if you had to play tomorrow, that are going to be key guys for you here?
There's no doubt Joey Chama is one of those, he was sixth man of the year in the Sun Belt, and he's done really well. We've had 3 straight sixth man of the years, Joshua Duje came from Utah State, was all Mountain West for us. And then Javon just couldn't play last year. He was injured. And now Joey, those kids have done well for us. Like, they're good players in the Mountain West. They've shown their worth in other places. And I thought Latrell Davis, who was with us, had an opportunity for sixth man of the year and went down to San Diego State. So, those types of, anytime I hear somebody winning a coach's award where coaches vote on them, like all league, all this, all that, that tells you a lot. I would trust that usually more than I trust an agent who's telling me how much the kid's going to do for me. Right? Sure. Yeah, that's going to happen. But Joey's a playmaking guard, reminds me a little bit of Cardenas, driver, aggressive, delivers the ball well, slick guard. You guys remember Alvaro Cardenas played for us and played for Boise. So I use that reference. I believe that's true. And I like him. KJ Martin is a young guy from Tulsa that is a super good athletic player that we are really excited about. Luke Howard is a smaller college player that has put up big numbers in Canada and Tennessee at smaller colleges that we think is a nice big guy too. Couple international guys, Oliver Colomé and Aurel. And I can't even say Aurel's full name. It's just not in front of me. But those guys are both they'll be over here in the next week or so. And we think those guys can really help us. And then we brought in some freshmen too. Cade Kruger, Braden Bennett are young guys that we really like and we see a future in.
I think this will be your 3rd straight year, Coach, with an entirely new starting 5. So you're getting pretty good at kind of, making this roster rebuild every single year here. But just the consistency. You've had some great seasons. You've had some down seasons there. How do you get the train kind of positively just staying in the right direction? And you mentioned maybe getting the money, and that certainly would help maybe with some roster retention, maybe next year or moving forward. But just the constant turnover to the roster, and you see where all these guys end up going, and everybody in America wanted Colby Garland last year. I mean, you're obviously doing something right to bring these guys in and find them and recruit them, and then you just are able to kind of hang on to some of these guys. So how do you try to work on the retention there, and how hard is that when you're every year almost starting over?
Yeah, we could take all 3 of our salaries, combine them, and still make less than Colby Garland's going to make next year. So he did pretty well over at Georgia Tech. But, we've been what I call an EKG: bad, good, bad, good, bad. So we're going to be good next year. So that's the good news for Spartan fans. BJ, you bring up a good point because, we were slow to the game in NIL, right? And we just didn't have the dough. And that really hurt us after, my second year when we had a strong team, postseason winning team, one in the Mountain West for the first time in school history, one in the CBI first time in school history. And so we had a lot of firsts that year and then just had too many things go wrong the next year, right? We lost all of our guys. And so and then we rebuilt it again, and Vaihola was back, and that really helped us. And we end up in the NIT, right? So when you look at that, we need resources. We need a steady payroll to be able to knowingly say, hey, because we were just ahead of Air Force for 2 years in a row, and we had a little bit of money, but we're parceling out. 25,000 was a big number for us, And last year we paid a little more, but still weren't anywhere close to where we'd hoped to be. So I think fundraising is a big deal. That's something I've tried to do and immerse myself, in those people to get them to understand if you want to have a successful team, we've got to fund it and do it appropriately. That's probably our biggest thing in my mind. It used to be you try to improve facilities and different things for the welfare of your team. And now, quite frankly, it's about those things as attracting the young guys that you can afford to get.
Let's go back to that donation. I'm sure, as you said, fundraising, you have to take a big role in that. Was that a surprise to you? Did you know that was coming? What kind of conversations were around that? We had Vance Wahlberg on, one of your former colleagues in the Mountain West, now off to the Pac-12. I think you guys are in similar situations. He told BJ and I a couple weeks ago that basically there's zero NIL dollars there at Fresno. Now they get a little collective money, so it's not like they have nothing, but they're in a similar situation. So, $4 million would go a long way for a lot of programs in the Mountain West right now. So that's a heck of a thing. It made big news a couple months ago. Did you know about that? Was that a pleasant surprise? Is that something you were kind of involved in?
Yeah, I had a donor group come to me and essentially said, what do you think it takes to get San Jose State in the NCAA tournament? And at the time, it would have been a year ago past, right? 14 months ago, 15 months ago now. I thought 4.7 million, more than what we already have, right? That's what it looked like to me. And I was probably still low on the payroll side, right? Probably missed out by $1 million, I think, right? Yeah. So we just worked through it and worked through the donor group. And then I thought they had some good challenges. They would come back and say, well, the school should help the men's basketball program here. So we just went through this whole kind of, how do I call it? Like a strategic plan, right? Optimal budgeting. And then fine-tooth comb it. Like what's really necessary, what really drives winning, what can we do? So it's not a surprise because I worked on it for over a year. And we did it strategically with our administration, our university administration, our athletics administration, and our donors. And so I think it was good for me. It reminded me of being the basketball coach at North Dakota State again, when we went from Division II to Division I. And we had to do all the strategic planning to see how NDSU could be functional in Division I. And we built it that way. We built our budgets the right way. They funded the budgets the right way. And NDSU has had success. Look at their football success now. They're in the Mountain West. I mean, they've done it so well. But even the men's basketball team's been to like 5 NCAAs. And everybody thought we were going to die, And, a Division I team in Fargo, North Dakota, are you nuts? And so, we just strategically thought we built it out to fund the right things. And that's what we tried to do here too. And I got so much respect for our people who want to stay anonymous, because you can imagine if we're hitting them up for dough, so is everybody else. But at the same time, I hope we get this thing on the right tracks and we can show the promise that everybody sees in this.
Well, any way you slice it, it's a positive thing, and I think you'll start seeing the rewards from that. It's funny you say what they asked, kind of what can we do to get San Jose State the NCAA tournament. I'll tell you one thing they can do is if they can create a magic like fairy wand and keep your guys healthy. I mean, everybody knows if you would count the guys on the injury reports from your guys, it would probably come close to equaling like every other team combined in the conference last year. Your list was as long as the guys that were healthy. I don't, I'm sure you get asked that all the time. I don't even know what you do to prevent that or to try to get around that. I mean, it's something that, like, for you guys, you can't withstand more than like one guy banged up. Yeah. I mean, how do you, like, I'm sure that's something that drives you nuts, right?
Yeah, Tom, when we, last year I was like, I'm not recruiting anybody that's been hurt. If they've been hurt in the football, we're not recruiting them. Right. So then, like, a guy like Yafet Munde, who had played 12 games, had like 7 or 8 double-doubles, and was just a maniac inside. And all of a sudden hurts a foot that he's out, 2.5 months for, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just like, what can go wrong will go wrong. I don't know, but I try not to overthink it. I look inside, right? Like, am I practicing these guys too hard? Is it something here? Is it something there? But it's just such a wide array of what actually happens. You never know. You can't predict injury, And so, last year I think we played 2 games with 7 guys, 6 guys, 1 game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you're just sitting there like, what? I think we were in Boise. One of those we had 7, and maybe it was 8. But you're just sitting there like, I mean, when you're strategically trying to say, okay, so nobody's called the first dead of the first time out of the second half on a 30 goes to a full. So we need to wait till like if we can get under the 12-minute timeout, the media break there, and get it down to like 10, we can use that one, and then we get the under 8, and then I would use my full. So we'd walk through all kinds of situations, so we didn't even have to call a timeout and try and draw up a game winner, right, or something crazy. And then we try and use our full. Like we were more strategic on when to call timeout when you're playing 6 or 7 guys at altitude than when you don't practice at altitude, right, than anybody. And that's the one thing about San Jose that I knew coming in was, I had been at altitude at Colorado State, and it was great. Going down to San Diego and playing, or going down to wherever. You rarely went uphill, right? Maybe Wyoming, maybe Air Force. And so when I looked at it, I'm like, hey, we have to have depth or we're in trouble, just in general, because we are playing at altitude so many times. And then that's been decimated. So, it's kind of one of those things. But you know what? People here, the fans have been great, and we're excited about where we're going. And this should be an exciting year. And it's too bad I can't go to my favorite restaurants in Boise this year, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to watching that conference. I think it'll be a good basketball league and give me something to do late at night when I'm tired of watching my own team.
There you go. Well, final question for me, Coach, and appreciate your time again. Tim Miles, San Jose State. You talk about you hopefully have a good team this year, and you kind of joke about being up and down, and so you're due to be up this year. But how do you kind of look at what constitutes a successful season for you at San Jose State? I mean, is it, you mentioned trying to get back to the NCAA tournament. Is that a realistic goal, or if that doesn't happen, the season's a failure? Or how do you look at in this new Mountain West and where you're at in year 6 here? What would constitute a solid season for you?
Well, I think an aspirational goal, kind of one of those, some people might call it an irrational goal, can be really good for you. I think it's how you handle it if it doesn't go your way, right? You can handle it well, you can handle it poorly, but anytime San Jose can be in the postseason play, I think that's a big feather in our cap. Anytime we can win and march on, whether it be the Mountain West tournament or the, one of those 3. And we probably won't get invited to the Crown. I would imagine, but CBI, NIT, NCAA, I think is where you could see us being for our options. And so when I look at things, like I want to be in one of those 3, especially the NCAA tournament, and I want to, wherever we are, I want to be able to win when we get there.
Well, that's a great goal, and it starts in a non-con, Coach. And to that, you mentioned, we talked about it briefly, you're headed off to Costa Rica. What are your goals and expectations for that trip? Is it bonding? Is it get guys in different playing together and to find out who fits well? What final question? What are you looking to get out of that trip to Costa Rica?
I think you just answered it. That and not to die ziplining. Those 2 things. If I can survive that, we're good. You get 10 practices, you get a chance to put guys in different positions, experiment around a little bit, build camaraderie. I don't know what the competition is going to be like, right? Yeah. And even when you go to Europe, I've taken teams to Europe, and you get 4 games, and you get 2 of them that you might as well just be playing each other, right? I mean, you're 5s against 5s on your own team, but at the same time, I'm excited about the trip. I'm excited to get the guys somewhere. Take them somewhere cool, do some fun stuff as a team, get these 10 practices and get some games in, play some different things, work on, like for me too, if I'm experimenting with something like maybe a different screen and roll defense or something like that, bring it out now, get the problems out of the way early. And it's good too. The NCAA is allowing us more exhibition games and more scrimmages. So we're going to get more and more of that. So I'm really excited about just the chance to get out. And someday I think they should do, and you guys can help us with this, is they should have us where we, can do like an NBA summer league. The Pac-12 and the Mountain West get together in Vegas and play 4 games over 5 days or something like that, hang out in Vegas for a week. And, we get a chance to coach our team, play maybe a crossover type of thing, Pac-12 Mountain West thing. And it's all exhibition games, and you do it in August, and you have a hell of a time.
Sounds
never
good
heard that
Tom.
one before.
Well,
I don't think anybody
would ideas up here, man.
Nobody would turn that one down, I don't think.
How is the schedule looking, real quick, Coach? You got more non-con games to fill now, and just overall, how you looking with the schedule?
Yeah, so one of the things with the fundraising project was to play a few more home games. We'd always been the least in the Mountain West of playing home games. So we've improved that a great deal, added 3 home games, and that's considerably expensive, as you might guess. And so I'm excited about more home games. I think the marquee stuff was we're down in Palm Springs at one of the tournaments, and we're at Stanford, And I'm excited about those events. Those will be a lot of fun for us.
Good stuff. All right. Well, Coach, thanks for joining us. We did have you on this past season after one of your league wins. So let's get some of those in a non-con or in conference play. We'd love to have you back on here on another night out west. In the meantime, enjoy that trip to Costa Rica. Buckle up that harness on the zip line. Have a good time with your team, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. That was our interview with Tim Miles. Good stuff. He keeps things pretty solidly in perspective, right? He understands where his program sits in relation to the other programs in the conference. Talked about that donation. The acquisition of Vaihola is big. He mentioned he didn't have the exact stats, but I remember that number when Vaihola was playing a couple years ago for the Spartans. They performed very well, right? He's a veteran guy, not, fifth year, sixth year, whatever. His body's been through the ringer. He's certainly not the most healthy player. And so, do I think that he'll play every game this year for San Jose State? Probably not. And I joke about the load management stuff. It may be one of those where you just have to kind of milk his minutes because you need him on the floor. I mean, Miles needs all those guys on the floor. We talked about that a little bit in there too. And I brought it up before we got to the interview. But it's so key with a guy like Vaihola. He knows what Miles wants and expects out of his players. He's a winner, but now he's been out of action for a while because he was injured last year when he attempted to go up and play with Nico in Minnesota. So it didn't work out there. You heard Coach say they kind of won the bidding war, I guess, if you will, with some former Mountain West schools. He didn't mention them, but you could probably guess who some of those were. Programs who see the value of a guy like Vaihola. He's not going to average 16 and 13, right? And be like your guy getting all the highlights. But he's a winning player. He'll do the dirty work. And if you ask him for 18 minutes, he'll give you 18 minutes. If you ask him for 25, he'll give you 25. He'll take fouls, get on the floor, take a charge, tie somebody up when you need a jump, whatever it is, right? So he's a key. Some of those other guys, it's like every other program when you bring these transfers in. You just hope that more of them stick than not, right? You also, a couple other things quickly, he referenced, as several coaches have, the added scrimmages or exhibitions, whatever you want to refer to them as. He gets 3. Good thing there for him. They went to Costa Rica. I didn't really see a lot on that. As you can imagine, they don't get as much coverage as some other programs do. So I'll have to check in and see how they did on their foreign trip. Maybe report back on that when I talk about Grand Canyons next year. I do like his idea at the end there about kind of the off season. I mean, look, that was always taboo in college athletics, but again, this isn't really college athletics anymore. I've talked about that for several years now, going back to my pod on here. Like, all that stuff is out the window. Just get these guys playing like organized. Of course, they can go play pickup in any gym they want against each other. And I'm sure several of them do, but it's likely not with the jerseys on, with referees, and playing in with your guys, right? I think Coach has a very good idea. Like, it can be kind of run simultaneously with the NBA Summer League, or maybe like a few days before, a few days after, however you want to lump it in. It doesn't have to be anything like massively like, of course it'll end up competitive, but it doesn't have to be like where we're keeping records and all that. Just get guys together to play as you're bringing in entirely new rosters all the time, right? And so not every program is going to go overseas or on a destination trip every calendar year to get those games in. So something like that would help. And, I do think it's funny, and I appreciate Coach Miles thinking that we have enough input to do that, because he said, maybe you guys can help us out with that. I'd love to be able to do that. If anybody knows where I can kind of have that kind of input, let me know. But in all seriousness, I'd love for that to happen. And it could be anybody. It doesn't just have to be like your, Pac-12 Mountain West schools. There's no reason the Big Big 12 and Big 10 schools out there on the West Coast, and ACC schools, basically all your former Pac-12 schools, wouldn't do that, right? Like, you don't need your head coach to do it. Send an assistant to go, send half of your guy, whatever it is, right? Take it as serious as you want, but I think it's a good idea. So look, as I said at the top with the Spartans, would not surprise me at all if Miles gets his bunch into the top half of the conference. There's going to be several schools that think that they're in that mix, and some of them are going to be disappointed, right? And so we'll see how it goes. Okay, let's move on to Utah State. We got plenty of Aggie fans that check in on here, that watch live, check in later, and just so happened that we did the Jacobson interview last. There was nothing, in there other than the timing of how it all worked out. And so new coach, I don't lost track of how many that is now in this decade, which is barely half over, right? Each of them has gotten to the NCAA tournament, and it looks as though that shouldn't really be any different this year. I know Aggie fans are expecting to make the tournament. They certainly have a roster capable of that. Interesting move by Jacobson, not by Utah State, but by Jacobson, right? I think most people that follow the sport, media people or even fans of the Missouri Valley or whoever, just assumed that this guy was parked there for life. And now here you go, after 2 decades in one spot, he moves to another. And so, the guy's a winner. He's won, right? And so, I know some Aggie fans at first were like, well, they pushed back when I said how it was a similar hire to the last few. Their point was the age difference, because he is a decade older than the last few guys that came in, like Odom, Sprinkle, and Calhoun. So I get that. But those guys followed the same pattern of like building winners at lower level schools. Arguably, Jacobson did it at better schools than all of those guys, right? Like Odom came from UMBC, okay? Sprinkle came from Montana State. Calhoun came from Youngstown State. Like, those programs are significantly lower on the totem pole as individual schools, no offense, and as conferences than Jacobson was at Northern Iowa, all right? And it wasn't so long ago, maybe a little more than a decade ago, that the Missouri Valley was a more consistent at-large birth gainer than the Mountain West was. Okay, now that's certainly changed in the last decade and certainly in the last 5 or 6 years. Okay, but it wasn't that long ago. So he did well at a better school in a better league. Okay, so I know there was some consternation among the fan base because there weren't a lot of sexy grabs in the portal, but I would trust coach here as far as assembling a roster. Okay. And so, that's, I don't know that anything more really needs to be said about that. All right. So I got a couple comments. I will get to the comments after the interview. I want to get to the interview again, probably a little bit more than 20 minutes, not much longer than that. BJ and I did it. I'm going to play our ad from one of our sponsors, and then we'll come back with Coach Ben Jacobson.
Get ready for the time of your life at Circa Resort and Casino, Las Vegas's newest destination for fun, featuring the world's biggest poolside tailgate party with 3 levels of action, 6 pools, and a 143-foot screen. The fun is always on deck with all the games all year long. Stadium Swim, located in downtown Las Vegas on Fremont Street. Book the time of your life today at circalasvegas.com.
Back here on another night out west. We're continuing our coaches series. Been having fun the last 4 or 5 weeks talking, basketball, catching up with all the coaches around the league, the Pac-12, the Mountain West, and it's been a lot of fun, Tom. Looking forward to this one as well. Our guest, a newcomer to the league, Ben Jacobson, the new coach at Utah State. Coach, as a Kansas alum, you gave me one of the worst days of my life way back in the day, but excited to have you in the conference here. Congratulations on the job, your success, and looking forward to getting to know you and see your team this year. Thanks for joining us. How we doing?
Yeah, we're doing good. Same. Looking forward to being out here and looking forward to getting to know you guys.
What tell us about this job, man? A lot of excitement for you taking over. You'd been at Northern Iowa for so long, but for you just deciding this was the right time, right place, and to take on this challenge here as Utah State heads into the Pac-12. What did it come down to for you?
Yeah, it was that the timing of it, on both sides. Personally for me and for my wife, our boys are older. They one just graduated from Northern Iowa and is going to stay in Cedar Falls and student teach and do some coaching in high school. And our younger Tanner is at the University of Nebraska. He's over there for their business school and going into his third year at Nebraska. And so the timing on that side of it was really good. And the timing professionally, just terrific. And I would start with Utah State and everything that has happened here with this basketball program, and the tradition and the history and the moments that have taken place out here. It's obviously tremendous, and so wanting to jump in and be a part of that, the move to the Pac-12, the opportunity to coach. When you take the job, you don't know who's going to come back. Now that we're here, Mason Falslev, Carson Templin, and then two of our younger players that redshirted, but the opportunity to coach those guys. There's just so many, the spectrum. I hear from everybody, whether in town or our guys that have been here on the road, opposing coaches that have played in here as the opponent, that spectrum magic is real. Like our student body, like that, it's legit. Just all of those things from a professional, from a coaching standpoint, the timing and the excitement of that made it hard to leave Northern Iowa. Right? I love that place, right? But the timing of what I just talked about and the excitement of this job, made it an easy decision.
Well, you touched on Mason, so let's just start with him. I mean, obviously, some of the previous players followed Coach Calhoun to Cincinnati. You came in, and it looked like that was one of your first priorities was to keep him. And Mountain West, Player of the Year candidate the last couple of years, and does big things, and obviously a massive piece for you. How important was that, and what was your selling point to get him to not, follow Coach like some of the other guys did?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of importance, like there wasn't anything else going on, right? When I got the job than the current guys. And then you would start, of course, with Mason, with everything that he's accomplished and what he means to this program. So, yeah, the importance of him returning was at the highest level, of course. And then Carson, Carson has been great out here. And this, our fan base in this community obviously is firmly behind both of those guys, and they love both of those guys. So, working through it with the two of them. And I've talked about this, a couple of different times. Like they both wanted to come back. Right now, there's obviously important parts of that, but the reason it wasn't as much me selling the two of them on coming back. They obviously, having been here, understand the level of support. Right? They know what it's like to, as I've talked about, they know what it's like to play in the Spectrum. They know what it's like to be part of a championship team. They know what it's like to play in the NCAA tournament. So they didn't want to go anywhere else. Now there was a couple of things that obviously we had a lot of conversations, right? And we were able to work through that and get to know each other, quickly and, kind of 7 to 10 days. And all of that part went well, but it was more about what's here at Utah State and the support that those two have. And then the two of them, really made a difference for Kingston Tosi and Braden Bowe, the two redshirt guys from last year's team. That was for them. That made it an easy decision. That Mason and Carson were coming back. So great for us, a great place to start.
Let's shift over, Coach, to some of your newcomers, and I'll start with one that the best, and that's Will Hornseth, who comes with you here from Northern Iowa. To me, without having watched him a ton, he seems to be like what an old school college player would be, maybe from back when you started coaching. You don't get a lot of production as a freshman, but you really improve. Great second year. Now he comes over here with you, so he's familiar with your style. What are you expecting and hoping for out of Will here as he follows you?
Yeah, and you used the word throwback. You hit it, you nailed it. Even though you haven't seen him play a lot, he's he's got a little bit of that old school game to him. Every once in a while he'll do the Dirk 1 foot fadeaway, old YMCA off the glass. Like he's got a uniqueness about him. But he's continuing to get better, and he's getting better fast. Last year, so he started for us last year at the center position at Northern Iowa. Averaged almost 15 points a game the last 12 games of the year for us as a true sophomore. And so the improvement, we saw it toward the end of the year last year, and he played terrific in the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. And right now, physically, and it was just a day or two ago, I said, hey, are you getting stronger, like a lot stronger? Like this is the best physically. You just look at him right now and you see his shoulders and he's getting, bigger, broader. And he's the part that I've really liked here in the last probably 3 or 4 weeks in our workouts. Like he's approaching it in a little bit, maybe more serious in terms of conditioning, okay, and putting in work outside of practice. Like he wants to take his what he's doing to another level, and I think part of that he understands we're going into the Pac-12. And so we've got some challenges that we maybe haven't been up against day in and day out. And I know he's excited about that. But he is a terrific young guy. He walks into the gym and he immediately puts a smile on everybody's face. Right? He's a heck of a basketball player, but a guy that his teammates are ready and our fans are going to love.
I was going to say, it sounds like a guy right up the alley of the Spectrum fans there, the student body especially. You got a lot of intriguing newcomers. We could spend an hour going over every guy. I want to just focus on a couple guys in the backcourt here. AJ Bates comes from Louisiana Tech, put up really good assist to turnover numbers a year ago. And Solomon Callahan from Wright State seems to be a really good shooter, made a high percentage of his shots last year. I'm not naming your starting backcourt for you, but what do you see out of those two guys, and how do they look so far here in your workouts?
Yeah, that was one of two of the things we talked about the most after the Mason, Carson, Kingston, Braden, Will. After that foundation, if you will, was okay. What do we do in the backcourt? Obviously, what do we do at the point guard position? And then we've got to get bigger up front. But to your question, in the backcourt, okay, who do you pair with or surround Mason with? AJ Bates is 206 assists last year, and his timing is really, really good. When you talk about his passing, he's in the pick and roll. He's really good, able to get the ball up by the rim for guys that are able to catch a lob. Really, he really feels when a defense commits, right? Whether it's an individual player or you see a shift in it, he feels it immediately and takes advantage of it. And that felt like that was very important for us. Solomon, he shoots the basketball as well as anybody that I've coached, and we haven't played a game together yet, right? But we've been in workouts now for 6 going on 7 weeks, and he really, really makes shots. Right? So I talk about surrounding Mason with guys. AJ is a guy that is able to get people good opportunities. Solomon's a guy that we feel like defensively you're going to have to stand pretty close to him, right? or he's going to make threes. So giving Mason some room, right, to be able to do what he does best. So feel great about both of those guys and how they fit with Mason in that backcourt.
Ben Jacobson, our guest, new head coach at Utah State, here on another night out west. And shout out to your SID, Jaden, coach. Has the website updated with all the bios of the new players and photos. And I mean, it's trying to put Lindy's together in July. You can find a lot of these ones where you can't even get a roster of who's on the team right now. And you guys got full bios and everything. So shout out Jaden and appreciate him for that. And I was looking, you got 2 7-footers from Snow College coming in. I mean, we've talked about the backcourt here, but let's go to the front court a little bit. And I know you have Carson back, obviously, and you talked about Will, but I know you got a Chattanooga transfer in there. How you feeling about the interior?
Yeah, so the Colin Mulholland is from Chattanooga, and he played a lot for him. He redshirted, then he played a lot as a redshirt freshman. They were in the NIT championship game against Cal Irvine, and Colin was a big part of that. He can really, really shoot it. He's 240 pounds, so he's big enough to bang around and handle himself on the block, and he's good on the block. But what he does best is shoot the basketball. and he handles it good, passes it good. He's got a good feel. Like I said, he can really shoot it. And then Connor Turnbull from Evansville was the last player that we added to our roster. And Connor's coming off of an injury and has been working his way back. He's had a great 5 or 6 weeks, and a lot of progress in the weight room, a lot of progress with the way he's moving and the way he's feeling. And he would be our biggest and longest in terms of shot blocker, catch a lob. He's got a real good skill level, so he fits into the way we want to play offensively. But we went through the spring and we kept working to find a player. We got all the way to the point where we felt pretty good about go through the positions and some of the guys we've talked about, but we hadn't gotten to the bigger, longer 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot, but long enough and active enough to block a shot, and long enough to be able to get behind the defense and throw a lob to. And so Connor is a guy that fills that spot for us. So excited about Connor, excited about Colin. The 2 guys from Snow that you mentioned, Brown Roberts tore his ACL. It was about 4 months ago with surgery, and we knew that. Okay, we took him knowing that, and so for him, it's all weight room. He won't be in action. He won't be healthy till probably January. And then Sean is really skilled, 6'11", really skilled, and I would say he's a little bit behind where Colin and Connor are at. Those 2 guys have played a lot of minutes at the Division I level. So Sean's working to get caught up with some of the pace, some of the physicality, some of the footwork, but really like his skill level.
Coach, really balanced roster there. You seem to have, I'm glad you pointed that out. There don't seem to be many holes. Let's shift away from the roster for a second. We talked, BJ and I, a couple weeks ago to Ali, someone you know very well. He talked about, some fans might not know, coaches, they do talk right during the season. You go through a little bit of a rough spell. You want to hit up a colleague, right? Not necessarily somebody that you're in competition against. That's going to change now. I'm sure, like he pointed out, same is going to go for you. You're not going to look forward to those games against Colorado State. I want you to speak to that relationship, how it's going to kind of change where you guys can't really bounce ideas off of each other anymore, and how that's going to change for you.
Yeah, that piece changes, and that's that isn't something that I'm looking forward to. We talked a lot last year, and look, I recruited him out of Kirkwood Junior College, and he played for us for 2 years at Northern Iowa, and we won 4 championships in the 2 years. And you mentioned the Kansas game. Obviously, Ali was a big part of that. Our relationship goes back a ways, and it also surrounds some amazing moments, right? And the ones that everybody sees, but then the ones that you talk locker room, you talk traveling, he's doing great, and really proud of him. And there's, as I'm sure he mentioned, there's 2 nights a year that are on the schedule that we've got to put that aside, and we will. He's going to do the best he obviously he can for his team, and I'm going to do the best I can for our team. But it changes the dynamic just a little bit, but we'll work through that piece of it.
Well, you mentioned the spectrum there, Coach. I actually cover Boise State, so know the league very well and travel and have been to all these places a number of times. And I can't find it, but I got my bottled water they gave me one time, the Tears of Leon water, and it was a very funny thing about Leon Rice and always complaining to the refs. And they had the Hawaii Pacific shirts on last year after they had, lost to Hawaii Pacific early in the year. So clever fan base, one of my favorite road trips of the year. They're right on top of the court. And but what else do you know about the other fan bases and what you're getting yourself into? And you obviously had a rhythm and knew all about the places you used to travel with there in the Missouri Valley and stuff. But now, going to San Diego State and going to some of these places, you mentioned Colorado State, Boise State, and obviously Gonzaga now. I mean, the atmospheres are, I think a lot of people that don't cover this league or don't ever see this, and this, but I mean, just regular basketball fans don't realize how sneaky good the Mountain West was in terms of basketball venues, and now you have the Pac-12 venues and even Oregon State, Washington State. So what do you make of just being a part of this, your program, but for you personally, going to some new places and stuff this year?
Yeah, really, really excited about it. Tremendous opportunity for us to be going into the Pac-12 with the teams that you mentioned and for the reasons that you mentioned. And there's going to be a learning curve. I've I've watched a lot of the teams play. We played Washington State a couple years ago in Las Vegas in a single game. I watched a lot of Colorado State last year for the reasons you mentioned, my relationship with Ali, our relationship. And I've seen San Diego State play a bunch. I've seen Gonzaga play a bunch. I know a number of the coaches. I've known them for a long time. So there's a lot of those things. But what I haven't done yet is with our team at Utah State, played at the places that you mentioned, right? I haven't done that yet. So for me right now, the excitement of doing that with the understanding of how good the coaches are, how good the players are, and the excitement of going and playing in those arenas, knowing that it's going to be difficult and it's going to be challenging. But, there's, and we had it, I was fortunate to have it at Northern Iowa, and I know that it's been here at Utah State for a long time. There's a part of all of us that wants the highest of levels, right? So that part of it, I'm excited about. I understand that there's going to be some real challenges, whether it's in the spectrum or you go on the road in this Pac-12. But man, why not? Like, it just really excited about it, and I know our players are as well. So it's going to be great.
Last question I have, Coach. We talked about the Pac-12 here. You guys also put together a really challenging non-conference schedule. You got 3 true road games. Not a lot of mass power schools are doing that. You're going to Memphis, to New Mexico, and to BYU. Really good. You're also in 2, I guess you're going to call them MTEs, right? You're in the Acrisure and the Dallas tournament. You got some other good quad 1 and 2 games, likely quad 2 games mixed in there. With some veterans coming back. That's big because a lot of times with team building entirely new rosters, they get off to slow starts. What are you looking forward to here with your group? How are you expecting to navigate November, December? The non-con is so important in terms of building your resume for those metrics when you get to Selection Sunday. What's your thought process? What are your hopes here for November and December?
Yeah, when we put it together, we're thinking about getting in that large bid. And then if you do it, right, if you do it well enough, then you can start thinking about seeding, right? So, and it's part of the conversation. Yeah, you play these games and you go on the road and you play the neutral games to help your team get ready for league play. To me, that's down the list a couple spots. Like, the reality is, for us, we're going to put it together again so that we're in position to get in that large bid. If we do it right. And by that, of course, you got to win some games, right? You've got to go and you've got to do your part. And, but if you don't have those games on the schedule, right, it gets really challenging, man. You can have a great record, right? We've seen it with different teams around the country, right? If you haven't scheduled correctly, or at least close to correctly, it can come up and bite you, whether it's all of a sudden you're the last team or 2 out, or it's impacted your seed. Right, you get an 8 or a 9 instead of a 6 or a 7. Like, we've all been in those conversations. I know you guys followed as close as anybody. So that's the way we've approached it. Is the Memphis game is a return of a home and home from last year, and so that was on the schedule. The Texas event was on the schedule. We added the Palm Springs one. We started a home and home at New Mexico, the one you mentioned. So they'll be back here the following year. BYU is at their place this year, and then we play them in the Jazz Arena the year after. So that one is great for great for the state of Utah, great for our fans, great for our players. But all of it with the intent of, okay, let's make sure the Pac-12 is going to be terrific. That's going to give us a number of quad 1 and quad 2 games. Okay? So we know that's coming, but let's make sure we do our part with the schedule and get them on there. And if we do well enough against it, then you can start to say, okay, well, what happened is we improved our seed by a line or 2 because we did that. So, it's one that, again, I'm excited about that piece.
Well, final one for me, Coach, and maybe you kind of answered it there, but I'm just curious, expectations in year one. I mean, maybe it's an at-large bid to the tournament, regular season championship. I mean, I know you're still learning and probably don't know much about a lot of the rosters of all these Pac-12 teams and where you guys might fit in the preseason rankings and all that. But how do you coming in? I know you have high expectations. You mentioned this program's won a lot and done a lot of big things the last, several years here. What constitutes a successful season for you here in year one?
Yeah, I mean, the basketball stuff that we just talked about, I want all of that. right, for our players in our program, our campus, our student body. Like, I want all of those things from a basketball standpoint. In terms of, like, we have one goal in our program. That's to have as much fun as we possibly can together. Right? We got, Mason's got, this is his last year. Connor Turnbull, who I talked about, it's his last year. So that's our one goal. Right? And that's the one I talk with the players about. We're going to have as much fun as we possibly can in this season. Now, when I talked to the guys about it in our first meeting, I said, all right, fellas, tell me something that is fun. And Carson raised his hand and said, hey, Coach, winning's fun. So, right, that obviously is a part of it. But I want our guys thinking beyond that. Hey, I don't want them thinking about the specific basketball things. To me, it's more about having a good time together, and that will lead to it. Right, we'll get there. Okay, and then the one expectation that I have for our players, that we have in our program, is that you give everything you got for the person next to you. Right? Whether that's a teammate, it's a coach, it's a student manager, it's whoever it is, you give everything you got for that person. So that's the goal, and that's the expectation. And the basketball stuff usually follows pretty close with those two.
Well, Coach, we really appreciate your time. After you get a nice W in the non-con or Pac-12 play, hopefully we can get you back on here post-game on our show at the end of the night. BJ, any final words?
No, appreciate it, Coach. Welcome to the league. Looking forward to you keeping that tradition going there at Utah State, and excited to watch you guys this year. And I like coming to the Spectrum. I'm not sure Leon or Boise State does, but I like coming down there. It's always a fun place, and always treat me well down there, and some good restaurants. So looking forward to getting down to Logan again at some point. When do we expect the conference schedule to come out, Coach?
Yeah, I think it's the very end of this month, or within the first 10 days of August is
okay.
What I'm hearing. So coming up pretty soon here.
Nice.
Good.
Well, congrats again, Coach, and we appreciate you joining us.
Welcome to the Pac-12, Coach. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of your summer. We'll catch up again.
Yep, thanks.
All right. We're back. Okay. There was our interview with Ben Jacobson. We'll touch on a couple things here. Have not had the Pac-12 schedule released yet. Obviously, he said, maybe the first 10 days of August. So I would expect it to be released shortly then, right? We're a few days past the first 10. So maybe in the next week or so, certainly by the end of the month, I would expect that to be released. So that will be nice to see. Again, we know everybody's playing everybody, right? Home and away. So it's just kind of when the dates fall, who's going where, when, all of that stuff. Couple other things in there. Look, basketball lifer, D1 player, right into coaching as an assistant, worked his way up. Guy had no reason to leave his job at Northern Iowa. He could have just coached there for as long as he wanted to. And trust me, he's turned down job. Well, I don't know about turned down, probably turned down, but certainly not pursued other jobs in the past decade-ish, right? Do I have a list in front of me of schools? No. Could I find that out? Yes. He's chosen to remain where he has. The fact that he is now at this point in his career moved tells you a few things, and he spoke to a lot of that at the beginning with BJ's question. But look, it also goes to the landscape of college sports today, right? I said 10 years ago the conferences were on equal footing, and before that, the Missouri Valley was even better than what the Mountain West was, right? Well, now it's not that way. The Mountain West and, of course, the Pac-12 going to be better resourced than the Missouri Valley. Coach Jacobson saw that, had an opportunity to move up another rung on the ladder to a better conference, and at a very good program, one that, as people pay attention, they know it doesn't really matter who the coach is. So I would trust coach here, right? There's more than one way to skin a cat, as I say often. The saying goes, we all build rosters differently. He, as I commented in there, he seemed to have a hole plugged for every different need for a roster, right? And so I would feel good about that. Certainly, with the giant in the room of Gonzaga, it's a little bit different than the last few years where, San Diego State was a giant, but this is a different kind of giant now. And San Diego State was I'm not going to call them an easily slayable giant, but we've seen it. Utah State has won several championships now in place of San Diego State the last handful of years, right? Lot tougher for Utah State to accomplish that this year. But again, I think their fan base now would much rather take like a Sweet 16, win a couple games in the conference, in the big dance, right? And that comes with the seeding. We talked scheduling a little bit at the end there. And as I said at the beginning of the show, I will dig into their complete non-con next week because it's filled up. It's excellent. We'll dig into kind of the numbers, how they break down, the dates, what we can expect, what a good outcome would be, what a great outcome would be, what a disastrous outcome would be, all of those things. But look, it's just the machine rolls on there, right? You got, and it's funny, as I was listening, I even forgot what Coach was going to say, but when he said, I want our guys to have fun, obviously winning is fun. Okay. And so that's, I wouldn't expect anything to change other than the guy in the head coaching chair. Okay. There's enough consistency there within the program. This guy knows what he's doing. He's got a staff that you may be unfamiliar with right now, but it's just like everything else in college sports today. There's a lot of turnover with stuff. Okay. So we'll see how it goes. But I would trust that Coach Jacobson knows what he's doing. Okay. All right. So that will conclude our coaches off-season series. We got 10 of them in. Really enjoyed them all, 15 to 30 minutes, depending on who they were. A lot of different things. Obviously, we talk roster a lot. Some of the boilerplate things that are going to be consistent roster, maybe a little bit of scheduling stuff, but we're some different off the wall things from some of the guys in there. BJ and I really enjoyed it. I'm glad we got to do that. Thank all of the coaches and the SIDs. BJ gave a shout out to the Utah State SID. It's not easy to set some of these things up. Some schools are better at it than others, and it's not always the coach's fault, right? I know I said earlier at the top how I didn't want to dime anybody out as far as a coach. It's not always necessarily the coach, okay? There's a lot of pieces in there that make it work or not work, right? So we really appreciate those schools that did allow it to work for us, and so we could get them on our show here. Hope you guys enjoyed all of them over the last 5 or 6 weeks. I guess it took a week off in there, so 6 weeks to get those 5 episodes in with those 10 coaches. Okay, so let's just wrap this one up here. Let me thank the sponsors one more time. Sun Cruiser, get yourself a nice summertime beverage right there, Sun Cruiser. Also, Circa Sports, if you're headed out to Vegas, and why wouldn't you, with football coming up, the pool, I know, in a week or two here on the East Coast, the pools will be shutting down. So it's always nice if you can swim in September. You can certainly do that out at Circa Stadium Swim. Hit up their sports book, the Survivor contest, all of that stuff. At the bottom, says it right now, subscribe to Another Night Out West on YouTube at www.youtube.com/@anothernightoutwest. Let's get a few subscriptions. I don't always check, but I'll check every so often. And it's nice when it's just going up by a couple to see a few more numbers up there on that tally list. So I guess that's that. So again, next week I'll be back. No coaches interviews, but we'll talk about a lot of the stuff that's going on the last few weeks with some of the eligibility stuff. Who knows what will come up in the next 7 days. And also the non-conference schedule. I did say I was getting to the comments. JNR, a good San Diego State fan. What I know about the new 6-8 NBA Academy Africa for San Diego State. I not a ton right now, I'll be honest. So I'm going to have to brief myself on that because I'm out of the loop on some of those guys. I know Dutcher didn't even have all his guys on campus. Latrell Davis, people were really kind of tooting his horn even during the season when the team was struggling and saying how he was one of their better players, and Dutcher didn't pull the red shirt. Had in hindsight, it's always 2020, but had Dutcher known then what he knows now, where red shirts are basically a gonzo, right? He would have played Davis, and who knows how things would have turned out if they would have turned out differently for the Aztecs. But it didn't happen that way. So we'll just have to see. And if he was great in practice last year and pushing those guys that were kind of underperforming on the court, then that's good, because he should perform well this year then with a brand new, basically, cast of characters, with the exception of, who's back, Harrington and Simmons, right? It should be just those guys, and that should be good. Okay, so I hope he does. Plug and play. Michael, plug and play. Go Aggie. Exactly. Plug and play. So that's what Ben Jacobson's going to do. He's got the pieces in place. The names might not be known yet to Aggie fans, but look, you guys should be used to that. Every program should be used to that, the way that things are anymore in college sports. So, okay. I think that's it. Hour and 20. Good stuff. I hope you guys enjoyed. Check it out now. Check it out later. Spread the word. Get it out to your friends if they haven't seen it. Want to hear Coach Miles, Coach Jacobson, either, both. Go back and watch the other ones from the last month-ish. We had 8 other coaches on, half, I think, from the Mountain West, half from the Pac-12. So a nice little split there. Coaches from all over the landscape. All right. Appreciate them doing it. Appreciate you guys being here as well. Enjoy the rest. Enjoy your week as your summer winds down here. We'll be back same time, regular time, next Sunday. Until then, thanks for being here on Another Night Out West. We'll catch you again next time. See ya.